Hello, everyone, and welcome to Moementum Mondays. On these weekly series, every Monday, we invite one inspiring young man or woman to our show and talk to them about important topics, including investing, financial planning, and financial education. Many of our guests include fellow YouTubers and investors who I've followed on YouTube and enjoyed their contents. Without any further ado, let's get into it. Well, welcome to the show, Mehran. I'm so happy to have you here on this episode. Before we get started, can you please introduce yourself to our viewers here on Momentum channel?
Hi everyone, my name is Mehran. I'm a university lecturer, investor, husband, and father who lives in the beautiful Perth, Western Australia. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm also Mo's twin brother, and I help him from time to time in producing some of the content for the channel.
That's lovely. I'm so glad, Mehran, I got a chance to visit you and your lovely family in Perth, Australia about 2 years ago. It was a lot of fun and we had a lot of great memories. With that, do you mind sharing with us when you started investing in the stock market and what inspired you to get started in the first place?
So I have been investing for slightly more than a decade now. It's interesting because initially I started investing through FOREX, which was basically trading the foreign exchange for currencies. But that started in 2010. After a couple of years of getting some experience doing Forex trading, which is really volatile and you need to be really on your toes to be able to do trading very quickly. Then I started gradually getting into stock market investing. So that happened in 2013, where I started investing in Malaysian stock market. It's also called Bursa Malaysia. During that process, I gained a lot of experience and obviously had wins and losses, but that helped me to build my confidence and get to know more about stock market investing and the various trading strategies. Our US stock market investing really started in 2018, and that was the time when my daughter was born. So my wife and I decided to start creating a good investment strategy for her so that she can have financial freedom by the time she grows up. And we used that opportunity to invest in the US stock market, and that has been probably one of the best decisions that we have made in our life. And we are very happy with that decision. And ever since, we have been constantly and continuously investing in the market, by adding additional fund to our investing.
It is so inspiring to hear that you and Azadeh are actually setting up Emma for success right from her childhood by, starting to open up an account for her right when she was only a few days old. And so that's so inspiring. But let's get back to the topic of the stock market investing and perhaps the year ahead. What are some of the sectors and stocks that you're most excited about in the year ahead?
I think this is a very good question. For me, one of the sectors that I'm really excited about and I see huge potential, especially in 2021 and beyond, is the semiconductor sector, and particularly because of the rollout of 5G, which I think would require a lot of infrastructure to be built. A lot of these companies that are active in the semiconductor space can, help and assist in the smooth rollout of this technology. Another sector which I think is really important to be taken into account, especially in this age and time due to the pandemic, would be the cybersecurity sector, because many more people are now working from home, and regardless of how effective vaccines are, it's likely that this hybrid model of working part-time from home and maybe a few days of the week from office is likely to continue. And with this hybrid model, which we call as a flexible working arrangement, chances are that you would need a much greater level of security to be built around whatever system that you're using. And that's where I think companies which are active in the cybersecurity space will have huge potential. And for me, based on my past experience and investment, I can see that some of my investments in that sector has been performing very well. And I think this is a trend that is likely going to continue as well. And lastly, I think one of the areas that I see there is a growing interest and attention to would be with the responsible investing or ethical investing, which really puts a lot of emphasis on social and environmental responsibilities of the company, to what extent companies care about the environment, their stakeholders, and society as a whole. And this, to me, is a sector that is likely to maintain its positive trajectory and grow into the future as well. I was recently reading a report by the United States Forum for Sustainable and Responsible Investment, which they said, in comparison to 2018, the overall value of the assets under management by different funds in the US, which were managing the sustainable investing strategies and funds related to that, grew by around 42% from 2018 to 2020. And based on some additional supporting arguments in that report, it was argued that this trajectory is going to continue in the years to come. And I think as we are getting more awareness around sustainability challenges, and with the sustainable development goals and climate change being a buzzword these days, I also see that sustainability and responsible investing would be overall a dominant theme that could emerge. And a lot of sectors could be affected by that. You could think of, for example, renewable energy sector. You could be thinking of electric vehicles, for instance. And as a whole, even you could be arguing, well, companies such as Linde, which focuses on clean hydrogen, for example, could be affected as well. So any sector that has some relevance and a foot basically in that bigger pie, I think could also be positively affected.
You know what? I agree with you, Mehran. Sustainable, clean energy and socially responsible investing seems to be a growing trend. And interesting enough, that's an area where I'm heavily investing in as well. Now, knowing your background from the academia, I believe you do your research before you buy a stock or invest into any sort of equities. So with that in mind, I'm interested, what have been some of your most favorite investing or finance books that you've read and you can recommend to our viewers?
When I think of some of the books that I've been reading, it's hard to choose, the most favorite ones, because obviously I had many of those which really helped me in my journey into becoming a better investor. But three books in particular stand out for me. And one of the very first books that I read, I recall, which got me into stock market investing, to really understand that it's not going to be a rocket science. It's really all about educating yourself and starting early. And that book was a book called Online Stock Market Investing, The Definitive 20-Day Guide by Alexander Davidson. And the reason why I liked that was there were a lot of practical suggestions and tips which made it easy for me to better understand how to start investing in the market in the first place. The second favorite book that I have is a book called Taming the Money Sharks, 8 Super Easy Stock Investment Maxims. And this was a book by Philip Chang. And the reason why I, again, like this book was the practical orientation of the book and the fact that it had summarized all of the key elements and all of the key tips and suggestions in the book into something that made it very easy for you to use and implement in your real investing. Both of these books, I can tell you, have shaped part of my investing strategy and have turned me into somebody who uses a combination of technical analysis, but at the same time some fundamental analysis before getting any investment decisions done and implemented. And lastly, obviously, I've noticed from the channel that this comes up as a popular book among many of the young investors, The Wisdoms from Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I think that has also been an influential book for me, as it seems to be the case for many of our young investors as well.
Mehran, thank you so much for joining the show and imparting your wisdom with our audience. Do you have any final word of advice that you'd like to share with our viewers here on Moementum?
I think in pursuit of financial abundance and freedom, perhaps the most important thing is really to get started as soon as you can. I mean, you have nothing to lose if you start educating yourself and making decisions on the basis of rational thinking. And obviously, you can always start small to build some confidence, get into the habit of investing, try to make investing part of your daily habits. And if you can make it into something that you do passively, perhaps automate part of your salary to be channeled into investing, for instance, that could be a great way for you to build that habit. One of the things that my wife and I have been doing was to build a college fund for our daughter. And the way we do this, in order to make sure that we always are committed to doing that, is by automating this process and making sure that part of the income automatically goes into that specific fund. And you'd be surprised how powerful the compounding effect is and how quickly that fund could actually grow. It's interesting because recently I was looking at how much that fund, which we specifically allocated for the college fund of our child, has been growing. And without me knowing and noticing that, I've noticed over the course of less than a year, it has grown to produce a return of more than 23%. Whereas if it probably had been to me to choose a specific stock, probably I would get emotional and I would just want to wait for the market to be a perfect timing to enter the market. So I'm not saying that don't pick individual stocks. I certainly do that as well. What I'm saying is that perhaps have different buckets. You could have a certain bucket for, I don't know, education expenses of your child. You could have another bucket for, maybe speculation, another bucket for something else. So these different buckets could then be run separately, and you can use a different strategy for each one of those. But again, I think the most important lesson for me has been, and this is something that I'm trying to lead by example and show to my child, is always start early and don't be afraid to lose, but rather learn from any mistakes that occur and use that as an opportunity to grow and improve and be better in the future.
It was so lovely to have you, Mehran, on this show. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much once again, Mo, for the opportunity. It has been great to be part of this episode, and all the best with everything.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for watching this episode of Moementum Mondays. I hope it was valuable to you and you learned something from it. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit from the video as well. We've added the contact link to our invited guest to the description of the video, so be sure to check them out. And lastly, if you haven't done that already, please subscribe to Moementum channel. Here on Moementum, we post weekly various videos about the stock market investing, stock analysis, financial planning, and finances. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.